So do you like a t-shirt that's got a funny saying on it? Do you like a t-shirt that may include some curse words? Do you like a t-shirt that hints, wink wink, at a little bit of a sexual innuendo? Well, guess what? You might not be able to wear it on your next Carnival cruise. Yeah, this story about offensive clothing has been rumbling around in the cruise space for almost a month. The big news agencies CNN and Fox, they just picked up on it. But let's break it down. Should Carnival restrict people's right to complain about them? Is that what this story is all about? Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Tony. Let me be your guide into that cruise life today. If you enjoy the cruising content, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of our uploads. Well, yes, I teased it a little bit. Is Carnival trying to censor its passengers? That sounds dramatic. I don't mean it that way. Just let's talk today about if somebody wants to talk trash about you in your own house, should you restrict it? Because to me, that's what this story is somewhat about. Now, here's the nuts and bolts. I went back on John Hild's, the brand ambassador John Hild's, on his Facebook page on December the 15th, 2019. There was a post from a concerned cruiser that said, I read a post of this lady who is disgruntled with Carnival Cruise Lines, and she is threatening to go on to her next Carnival cruise wearing a shirt laden with obscenities and trashing the reputation of Carnival. Will she be allowed to do this? Now, John responded, he answered, and he said, look, we just added some language to our FAQ over there on the website. Go check that out. And basically we are banning, we're going to have people not be allowed to wear offensive clothes. Let me read exactly what the statement was so I don't get this wrong. In the past few days, we have included this in our FAQs, our frequently asked questions. This is John responding to the person concerned. All guests are expected to ensure their clothing and accessories are respectful to fellow guests. Specifically, items worn during the cruise should not contain any message that may be considered offensive or contain nudity, profanity, sexual innuendo / suggestions. In addition, clothing / accessories should not promote negative ethnic or racial commentary or hatred or violence in any form. And John ends out his post with the question, may I ask if you agree with this policy? 23.5 thousand people responded. Out of that, a resounding 97% of the people said that they agree with the policy. So what is the deal here? Is this about protecting customers' sensibilities? Is this about making sure that nobody is offended? Or is this really about restricting people's ability to go onto Carnival Cruise Lines and disparage the reputation of Carnival while they are cruising? Or I guess the third option is it both? So first, let's address this idea of should Carnival be able to protect their brand reputation on their own cruise ship by basically censoring people who want to disparage Carnival. So I don't know, say a person creates a shirt that says, I don't like Carnival cruising. Would that be considered offensive to anybody? It could be. There's no curse words in there. There's no, no profanity, no sexual innuendo, but it could be a message that is considered offensive to other passengers who are brand loyal to Carnival. And obviously it could be considered offensive to Carnival. So could somebody wearing a shirt that says, I don't like Carnival, could they be asked to not wear that t-shirt on the cruise? I think because the definition here is so broad in the FAQs, I think they could be asked to take that shirt off. Is it right? Is it wrong? Me, for one, I think it's right. Okay, now look, we live in the United States of America, and this country is founded on the idea of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It's the First Amendment to the Constitution. I think everybody is super familiar with that, and everybody likes to bandy around the First Amendment. But what people forget sometimes is just because you have freedom of expression and freedom of speech does not mean that you have freedom of audience. Now, what do I mean by that? It is up to everybody that wants to get their voice heard to draw their own audience. And you've got to find the correct place to draw your own audience. And look, if you got a beef with a business, you're not going to be able to go into the middle of the business and try to get your voice heard under the guise of freedom of speech. Here's an interesting example. I'm a big fan of Howard Stern. I've been listening to Howard Stern on regular radio. I listen to him on satellite radio. I think the guy puts on a great radio show, a great interviewer. And what he does really well is he brings together a lot of different people to entertain the masses. And I was listening to him, I don't know, a month ago, and somebody called in and they just started telling him how horrible of a entertainer he was. You know, the guy's like, oh, I don't think you look very good. Your show's not very... And he got about 30 seconds into it and Howard just cut him off. And, you know, somebody called up and said, why wouldn't you let this guy openly criticize you on your own radio show? And Howard said, look, I've spent my whole career trying to build the reputation of this radio show. Certainly there's going to be people that don't like what I do, but I'm not going to open my doors and make this the forum for people to criticize me, especially while I'm doing my job. There's plenty of other places to bring forth criticism, plenty of other places to garner an audience, to gather a crowd if you want to criticize something. But he said, not on my radio show, basically not in my house. And look, as somebody who creates content on a small scale, as somebody who's tried to build a community around the content that I create, I completely empathize with that idea. I am all for constructive criticism, and I tell you what, I believe even in the most hateful criticism, there is some nugget of wisdom that you can pull out, something that you can take from it to possibly make what you're doing better. But hey, man, not in my house. I do believe that it is a slippery slope, right? That language is super loose in the beginning. Anything that anybody finds offensive. We live in a great big society and everybody's offended all the time. It's not hard to offend somebody. And that's really the beauty of America. The beauty of the United States is that all these different ideas can flourish in a way that creates dialogue, that creates tension, and hopefully out of that tension, there is peaceful resolution, there is peaceful growth of the society. I mean, that's the big idea. But if you oppressed every idea and if you didn't allow people to have different thoughts, you would not get that tension, you would not get that growth. But at the same time, it doesn't mean there's a carte blanche, a complete open door to go in everywhere and trash everything based on freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, you're on a cruise ship. The staff, the officers, the cruise captain has the right. It's written into your cruise contract that if they don't feel everything is copacetic with you, they can put you off the cruise ship, and there's really not a lot that you can do about it. It's very broad. They don't have to explain much. And so I do believe that some of the looseness of this policy does continue to allow that kind of action. Now, there is a lot of conversation out there. Isn't this a slippery slope? Who's going to make these decisions? I really think that these decisions are going to be made at the management level, at the officer level or the management staff level, the people that you see in the white uniforms. I don't think that you're going to have your room steward kind of inspecting your clothes as you leave your cabin each day. I don't think your MDR waiter or your buffet, server is going to look at you and determine whether or not your clothes are offensive. Certainly there's going to be a customer service aspect. Somebody's going to go complain to customer service that so-and-so's got on offensive clothing. But I do think all of that's going to be elevated to the management level primarily because that's where this leeway lies. Again, it's very loosey-goosey. If the management of the cruise ship, if the people that are running the cruise ship don't feel like that you're acting in best faith, that you're doing things to be disruptive, whether trying to tarnish the reputation of the cruise line or something that's offensive to another guest, that's where it's going to happen. And again, they have full discretion to say, look, I don't think what you're doing is good for the guest, and you got to get off the cruise ship. I think most people know that. I think they put out these kind of statements, these kind of policies more as a deterrent. You're going to think twice about bringing your FU t-shirt or something like that on the cruise ship because you know that now it's in the consciousness of the management there on the cruise ship and they might be looking for you. You don't want to ruin your cruise vacation. Again, most of the people are saying this is a good change. Why have all this disruption on your cruise vacation? I don't completely disagree with that. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of expression. But there is a responsibility that goes with that you have to be able to find somebody to listen to your voice, and that requires knowing where to speak out at. And the cruise lines are saying, look, not in our house, just so you know. Sorry. And look, when you go on a cruise, it's not the time to make a spectacle of yourself. I mean, just go have a good time. I probably should put this intentionally offensive clothing wear on my list of ridiculous cruise passengers. If you haven't seen that video, check that out. I tell you who, I can't stand the show talker. How about you? Thank you so much for stopping by. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.